Hello and welcome back after a brief hiatus to Molby On The Spot here in Anfield Index. I'm Trev Downey. I'm joined, of course, by the legend that is Mr. Jan Molby to discuss all things Liverpool. Good evening, Jan.
Good evening, Trevor. How are you?
I don't know how I am. I think, like a lot of people, I'm actually looking forward to getting your take on stuff because I feel a bit mental, I'll be honest with you. I don't like feeling like the old guy who's reacting like a young guy. And that's kind of how it seems to me at the moment. My take on things seems to be not the traditional take of the more dyed-in-the-wool fans around Slot, around Salah, around all this nonsense. Let's start with the most obvious one that everyone wants to talk about, which is the Salah situation. And let's just get your take on it from the start, from when it panned out, what you thought of at the time. You've seen all the drama around certain pundits who used to play for the club and their reactions and the nonsense sort of soap opera around that. What did you make of it when you saw it, and what has been your thought as it's developed?
So, obviously, last Saturday, I was at Leeds, and by the time Salah did his walkthrough, I'd left. And I actually got a phone call from one of the more reliable journalists on the way home. And when I saw his name, I thought, what's happened here? Yes, in many ways, it was a dramatic game, wasn't it? Leeds-Liverpool, but I'm thinking, what could have happened here? And he just told me, and he said, there's an embargo till 9:30. He said, and the full story will be out. Mo's interview, we'll take it from there. So you can obviously imagine what then. And the lads will text me when I get home, and I'm going, I don't know. I need to digest this. I'm not sure. I need to see Mo's interview and listen to it all. So I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed. And the first thing I did, Trevor, was I narrowed it down to this has nothing to do with whether Arne Slot should go or not. And this has nothing to do with whether Mo Salah should play or not. This is all about what he said and why he said it. And then you look and you think, prior to the West Ham game, some 10, 11 days ago, he started every Premier League game under Arne Slot. And I thought maybe could have given it a little bit longer before he lost his head and felt the need to say what he did. And then my first initial result was, how do we resolve this? Because there's no way he can go to Milan. There's no way that Arne Slot and him can be in the same room because he'll affect everybody else and he'll affect the atmosphere. It'll be really, really awkward. If let's say that would have been my big mate at the time, Ian Russ, I would have been I'd have probably been more on Russ's side as such, you know what I mean? I would have gone, listen, don't worry about it and we'll sort it out and whatever. And I know a lot of the lads are really close to him. So Liverpool did. And in terms of not taking him to Milan, I think that was a clear sign that Liverpool are backing the manager. And I said, by the time I did my piece on Tuesday before the Champions League game, I was kind of at that stage where when it's really up to Mo now. The ball is in his court. He needs to do certain things, and apologising, I think, would be one of them, whether that's public or in private, for the whole thing to move on. The most bizarre thing about this, Trevor, is though, so generally, I was a great fan of many things that Sir Alex Ferguson did. Also, the way that he had an unbelievable ability to sort of get rid of players before they started a downward curve. He also had an unbelievable ability to get rid of players if he sensed that they were just getting too big for the whole thing. And that, but you can't do that today, can you? So the club's put in a difficult situation in that all the club really could do was not take him to Milan, but they can't really make a statement, can they? They can't come out and say what they really want to say or how they really feel, just in case something happens. And to be fair, if we're going to think of how they feel, we have to guess, don't we? We have to try and second guess. How do the club feel? A lot of people, so you get so many conspiracy theories, and then people go, so when he signed his new 2-year contract in the summer, yeah, of course he signed that, because that was then with the view of him going in January, so Liverpool get a fee. And I'm going, wow, I never even thought of that. I think he signed a 2-year contract because he wanted to be at Liverpool for another 2 years, and he wanted to score another 100 goals and break another 5 or 6 contract records, as long as he stays away from the penalty records. I can deal with all that. So, people just never ever stop, do they? Everybody's got their own view on this. My view, Trevor, is that if that's how he feels about being at Liverpool, and how he feels that, I don't think this was an entirely dig at the manager. I also think that when he was talking about other people potentially, I don't think that was an entirely dig at the manager. So my feeling, if that's how he feels about being a Liverpool Football Club, the best solution might be to do something else. But it's a massive big call, isn't it? And then you got the people now. So I think technically we've started 6 games this season without him. We're unbeaten in 5 of them. I think we lost the Galatasaray game, but the other 5 games were unbeaten. But I also don't believe that. Okay, so people go, well, Konate should be dropped. Yeah, Konate, the way he's played, should be dropped, but we don't really have any alternatives. And again, this isn't about whether Mo should be dropped or Gakpo. He's chosen to leave Mo out because he was a manager or a head coach under massive pressure, and he had to do something. And since the West Ham game when he left him out, we are unbeaten in 4, 2 wins and 2 draws. But you're not going to remove Mo out of the team and then the next day play great football. And that's kind of the one thing I'm missing at the moment, Trevor. I wish for us to start playing well again, because when you play well, I know we won the game in Milan the other day and whatever, but we didn't play particularly well. And, when you're playing well, Trevor, then we can start getting back to going, we're going to win 3-0 and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. There's so much more fun, isn't it? So, but let me hear where you stand, Trevor, because you started the program by obviously saying that you're going slightly against the grain. So what do you mean by that, Trevor?
Well, I guess an awful lot of the people who would have spoken to you would be of your age or my age would have been saying things like, you don't air your dirty laundry in public. And frankly, that was the end of the conversation for them. And I respect that. I really do. I get it. But like you said, when you actually analyze the things that Mo said, it's a bit more complicated, I think, than people were just thinking. I think you're right with it's not just a dig at Arne Slot. Someone doesn't want me at the club type stuff. I don't think that's a reference to Slot, because he speaks about Slot in a separate category in that interview and talks about how he had a good relationship and then there's no relationship. It's all very dramatic. It's all very unfortunate. I think we all wish he hadn't done it, because it's caused, if you were looking for Arne Slot to leave, it's caused a situation where now the powers that be probably feel like they have to back him, so it's not a sign of player power. If you'd agree with that, but that's how
100%.
I would. That's
100%.
I think that's right. And so that's a frustration for some people who are thinking, well, we're nearly where we want to be. But I think the bigger picture is exactly what you're saying. And this is the thing that sticks in my craw is we are so boring, Jan. Mm-hmm. I have been watching the last games where we've been undefeated. I swear to God, I can't engage with it. Like you and I in the period of this show have been so blessed because it coincided with the Klopp era and the year where we win the league under Arne last season. And it's a lot of things. It's been a lot of things, but it's never been boring, ever. And we saw little traces of it in the way that Arne was approaching when he started with the team first. And it was a little bit risk averse compared to how Klopp used to play and stuff like that. But it didn't matter because we were winning. Then we start this season, we're getting the last sudden, there's nothing. And to watch the club at the moment, to watch the style of play, it's so tedious. It's so bland. And here's the thing I want to go out and throw back at you here. Irrespective of Mo Salah or Arne Slot's decision to bench him or his persistence with Cody Gakpo in the face of all logic, that boredom is a thing. That lack of inventiveness is a thing. That lack of chance creation is a thing. The lack of goal scoring is a thing. The concession of goals is a thing. And we've been told by all the journalists who are in the know, as they try to spin like crazy, that things have improved. We've solidified. We've got some sort of a pattern back. The games I've seen, Jan, we have been gifted goals by the opposition, and we have done precious little to create goals for ourselves. And in a game like Leeds, we conceded frickin' 3. Where's the improvements, man? I don't see them. Like, over the course of this little period of games, what have you seen that's taken us forward?
Nothing, Trevor. I thought I might have had to work a bit harder for you to think the way I think. And the first thing I was going to say, what's about the 3 goals? Because also some journalists are putting up the goals. We scored, 2 at West Ham and 1 and 3, and it's not as if we've been poaching without Mo Salah. And I thought, are they really putting up the first 2 Leeds goals? Because they were gifts, weren't they? They gifted us the first 2 goals on Tuesday. Because we're at this level, we're at this stage now, Trevor, where the questions you're going to be asked, you'll have to give a hard-hitting answer, won't you? Because we're at that stage. There's no more paper and over, is it? And they asked me, what about Arne Slot? I said, well, I less and less believe that he's the guy to get us out of this. I just think that his fingerprints are too much over this team now. And the game on Tuesday against Milan was a strange. There were spells where we had the ball for like 2 minutes. And I actually said during commentary, I said, I feel like I'm at the World Championship of pointless passing. There was just nothing happening. And then people are going to 4-4-2. And I said, what did the 4-4-2 do for us? We got 4 midfield players who didn't know what to do. We got 2 strikers who wanted to run in the same channels. I said, so I don't know what the 4-4-2 did for us. And then people go, but it was really clever to play 4-4-2 because they played 3-5-2 and all their players through the middle. I said, well, the smart play might have been to go over the flanks where there's more room and where they have a little bit more weakness, So, yeah, I'm totally with you, Trevor. And I was unsure whether you felt the same because I spoke to a lot of Liverpool fans, and I even had somebody. He said, "I thought we were brilliant in Milan," and I went, "Wow!" I mean, whew. I know there was some controversy, and with the goal and the penalty and whatever it is, but generally, I said to somebody, "If that's how you feel, watch the game now. Without there'll be no jeopardy in the game because you know the result. So sit down and watch the game, and then tell me that you still think we played well." Well, he hasn't done that as yet, isn't it? So it's different because you go and you convince yourself we're now playing Inter away from home and they're a good team, and they are a good team, but they're not at our level. In fact, they're nowhere near our level. Neither are Leeds. Hence the reason that, I'm delighted you as well. So obviously, you just get that little bit more disappointed in it. Leeds for 65 minutes when we were winning 2-0. There was no way back in it for them, was there? Because they were so poor. They had no ideas. They gave it a go for 5 minutes where they put a few balls up for Calvin Lewin, and then Van Dijk went, no more of this. I'm going to win every ever from now on. And they had absolutely nothing. And then to come away with a 3-3 draw is really, really poor.
In other areas of life, you see people managing expectations of larger groups of people by telling them everything's awful, and showing them and making everything awful. And then when you get a little bit, suddenly you're supposed to be grateful for it. And I think we're both in agreement that neither of us are feeling particularly grateful as we watch Liverpool at the moment. And it is back to that question of, has the Salah incident actually stalled any potential impetus? Because here's where I kind of want to go next. And for those of you who are watching live and are listening, we will come back to Mo, and we will come back to Arne Slot and how he's doing and bigger questions around Mo Salah before we get into some talk about Brighton later on. But I'm curious to know what you make of the stories that were broken in a week. We did a show, I think it was Monday night, myself and Dave Davis, where we talked about some really well stood up rumours that Richard Hughes had spoken to Cesc Fabregas. We all heard the rumours last night that Xabi Alonso could have been a defeat away from the sack. He got that defeat. It looks like he's still hanging on by his fingertips in there, despite what is clearly an unfortunate situation, and people are talking about him. There's way too much speculation and sort of accuracy behind the Cesc stuff. Too much fantasizing about the Xabi stuff for Arne Slot to be thinking that he's safe, because he ain't. I don't think he is. And I do think, like I said, the Mo thing is given a sort of stay of execution there. When you think about some of the alternatives that are available, we spoke about this briefly last day. Is it, putting aside the Liverpool way or concepts that we have about how we are a respectful club to managers, is there a real case to be made for making the change that needs to be made before the transfer window, like we spoke about on our last chat together?
I think that's really difficult, Trevor, because again, that depends on what our plans are. If we get in, if Arne Slot were to leave the club before the window opens or before the window closes, then you'd be under pressure to do something. But we did say last week when we spoke about this is that we did feel that, you know, if Liverpool were looking or, you know, checking out potentially new coaches, it would be in that sort of Sepp Fabregas, you know, young coaches, managers who's making a name for themselves. We would we would yet again find some stats attached to that manager coach that we like, and on the back of that we would appoint them. We wouldn't go in and get somebody who's done it already in the game. We want somebody who's on that upward curve. Says Fabregas. I mean, Christ almighty, what a baller he was. He was a terrific footballer. And he's doing a good job at Como. What does that? I mean, is it Como Monza? Where is
Como,
it?
yeah,
Oh, is it Como?
Como.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just got. That's because a friend of mine went to watch Monza play on Monday. That's why I got it in. Yeah. So he's doing a good job without, you know, it will be one of them again. Is that what's he ever won? But it will probably be easier to get over that because he was also a terrific footballer. You know, whereas Arne Slot didn't quite come with that kind of, you know, having been a great footballer himself, he wasn't. So, but it is difficult, isn't it? Because if anything happens, then, you know, everything will be pointed towards what happened after the Leeds game. And, you know, as we sit here, I don't think the club has any plans of getting rid of Arne Slot. How long that lasts, I don't know. People keep talking about credit. Credit in the bank doesn't last forever, so.
We were talking the last time about how people were saying, journalists were saying, Arne Slot's future will be results dependent. And we went on to lose several matches. And then that line kept getting trotted out, and we were not losing, we were drawing, we won 2, like you said. That would lead me to believe that the highest likelihood is that we keep faith with the manager till the end of the season, for good or bad. With that in mind, there is another potential exit then to circle back to Mo Salah. He's kind of put himself in an awkward situation here, talking about this sort of sentimental idea of his parents coming to the Brighton game. And he's very much laying it out there that might be his last time and their last opportunity to see him play for Liverpool. That seemed to be very much where he was driving that particular bus. With that in mind, and let's just not get into the depths of depression about Mo Salah not being a Liverpool player anymore, or the moral right or wrongs of it. But if it is a reality, let's just speak about the potential scenario. If we are looking at a future without Mo Salah, I don't know about you, but we started this season with a shortage of senior strikers. We had 6 last season. We had 5 plus Rio and Gamoa this year. And one of them was not fit to play and still doesn't seem to be fit to play, which means we have effectively 4 because he won't play Rio. And Isaac is so many miles off it. It's comically, it's really painful to watch forward into the second half of the season without addressing that. So now you're back into Semenyo rumors and the likes, aren't you? Like, it's going to be one of those transfer windows, I think, isn't it?
And then you say 2 months ago, you'd have given me Semenyo. I would have took him all day long. And now you're looking, and it's not just down to him, is it? But there's also this thing about there's not many players who last the full season, you know, at that level. You know, Semenyo did well for 2-3 months in it, but now he's fallen off the cliff a little bit. So all of a sudden I'm thinking, could be one of them players. 2-3 good months every season. No good for teams who have aspirations of doing something. I mean, my dream to replace Mo Salah, because Mo Salah will leave one day, is the boy at Bayern Munich, Michael Olise. He would be my, you know, because he has it all. You know, he has that ability to play that same role, be the same goal threat, but he also has the ability to play central. His vision is off the scale, isn't it? And he's just starting out, isn't it? But the problem is he's at Bayern Munich, and he obviously is quite happy. Although I do think that at some stage he'll want to come back to the Premier League. So yeah, for the time being, it looks like Semenyo is at the front of that queue. But I totally agree that we've got to make sure we don't leave ourselves short. You know, when you think and you praise Michael Edwards and his staff of the ability to plan and plan well into the future, we made a mess of it of late, that's for sure.
You've brought them up, and I think it's very valid to talk about, because we were all very high on the recruitment in the summer. Well, at least excited. I think you and I were more sort of warily excited than, saying this is a great idea. I think we both said, this is a big gamble on Isak. It's a lot of money. This better work out. I know I was nervous about his age and his injuries. I don't think there's any, I'm not reinventing history there. I think we both said that. But Wirtz was exciting and Ekitike was exciting, and both of those have, to a greater or lesser extent, looked like they're going to be great for us. But the Hughes-Edwards thing is interesting because the stories that were being briefed to the press and the type of chaps who might be ringing you on your way home in the car was very much that it was Richard Hughes who was going to break the news to Salah about his lack of involvement in the squad. I felt really hinky about that because regardless of how you might feel about whether Slot's the right man for the job or not, he is currently the Liverpool manager, and I don't see a scenario where it's appropriate for anyone other than the gaffer to be making a call like that. Again, am I just a football dinosaur in that opinion, do you think, Jan? Is that just the way things have gone?
Trevor, I would be disappointed if that was the case. If it was Richard Hughes or somebody within the club felt it needed to be Richard Hughes, or Richard Hughes himself felt that he needed to be him, I would be disappointed. I've been at football clubs where they've done things previously and this is what we do, and I go, no, this is not what we do. I'm the manager, I'm responsible, and the least I can do is tell the people involved. So you take some kind of responsibility. And I would like to think that Arne Slot would be straightforward enough to go, no, listen, this is my job. Yeah, I have to work with these guys. We don't need interference from other departments of the football club. But you're right, Trevor. There's been a million rumours all week. Some, more believable than others, isn't it? But the rumours won't stop because now we're leading up to the Brighton game, and it's will he, won't he? He's going away to the AFCON on Sunday, isn't he? His mum and dad might even be there. So here we go again. Arne Slot press conference coming up. How many questions this time? It was only 16, wasn't it? In Milan, 16 in 10 minutes. Can they beat that, the boys?
Yeah, let's see what the ratio is. To be fair, I think everybody else around Slot has spoken very well. Ali, Robbo, I saw Virgil as well. They've all said, yeah. I think they're maintaining a line where they don't, to use Mo's phrase, throw anyone under the bus, which is good to see. It is the most regrettable aspect of the whole thing, is that it just doesn't really jive with any of our ideas of what it is to respect how we do things at Liverpool as a club. And people say that's old-fashioned. And I found myself with a lot of sympathy for what Salah said, for the record, and the way he was feeling. And I think, whereas the essence of what he was saying, I have no problem with. Doing it on that platform is where you start to get a little bit hinky about it. I wouldn't condemn him like so many other podcasts and TV shows have. I certainly wouldn't go out of my way to be obnoxious about it like a certain Mr. Carragher has. But we are where we are. And just to get back to the Hughes-Edwards recruitment side of things, I see a couple of people popping up very much in favor of Semenyo in the chat panel there. So I'm backing up your idea of Alicia as the best option, and obviously that will be a summer one. The Bradley Barcola rumours are ongoing, Jan, and I know he's a player that we've spoken about before. I'm curious to get your take on him because I haven't seen enough of him personally. I probably don't watch enough of the Champions League or PSG to get a full picture of him. But anytime I've seen him, I've been really enthused. That said, there are other players at that club who are even more impressive on the flanks. But he certainly has a lot of the features that you would be looking for in terms of that directness and pace and skill and taking someone on. What's your Barcola take, just so we can kind of sign off on the transfer speculation part?
Again, I like Bradley Barcola. Would he be another 100 million euros? There's probably every chance that they're going to want that fee. Sometimes my only issue is that we have an issue with our central strikers. We find it very difficult to create chances for them. And I don't think Bradley Barcola would help that, because he's very much right-footed. Once you come in, every now and again he go the other way because of his pace, but he tends to be more of a finisher. He goes at the fullback and he gets his shots away. So I'm looking, and if Isak is the future, maybe the next player needs to be a wide player who's also capable of feeding them, and that's why I'm keep coming back to Elise and that ability. As he takes that step inside, when people are waiting for him to take the next dribble, he's already stuck it in behind, and the striker's away, isn't it? So, but yeah, no, I mean, Bacola is a terrific footballer, as is Semenyo, but there's something missing, isn't it, Trevor? There's something missing in our attacking play, and we don't just need a goal scorer to come in. We need somebody who can maybe contribute a little bit more to overall play, which how we started the show. We're not playing particularly well, are we? We need some players who come in and help us play better, knit it a bit more together, and maybe also help the likes of Florian Wirtz to have more people that he can combine with, and more people that see the same space. But again, it's really difficult, but we don't know, do we, Trevor? We always guess, and we go, clubs don't like to deal in January. To be fair, we've been quite successful. We've done really well in January windows. So maybe that doesn't apply to Edwards and Hughes, and they go, no, we're quite prepared to deal in January if that's what it needs. And you do feel it's needed, don't you? I mean, we could easily pick 3 positions you would feel we need strength, which you would need another centre half. You'd be quite happy to take another centre midfield player, especially the way that McAllister keeps and carry on playing, and you would also quite happily take a wide striker.
For sure, and I was just going to say that to you. And again, I see people contributing in the chat there, talking about we need a central midfielder and a centre half first. Again, stuff we've identified for ages. Just going off the rumours that we're hearing, and it would make all the sense in the world to have a proper platform for lads to be able to, do their thing in attack from. I'd love to say there's going to be, a Wharton and Anderson, those type of fellas on the horizon. But like we've said on multiple other shows, the further we slip off our standards and away from what we were last season, the tougher it's going to be by way of competition to get those lads nailed down. So it's going to be very interesting. If we just take for granted that as the next couple of shows roll out, we'll be getting closer to that window, and the speculation will go up, and there'll probably be 1 or 2 more than tenuous links that we'll have to talk about. But in terms of the players that we have now, and Slot trying to get a tune out of them to get us at least to limp forward to that time where the window opens, you've touched on it there. It's really interesting to see how so many of our players are off the boil. And in a discussion today with a fellow Liverpool fan whose take was, there's a World Cup on the horizon, the likes of Virgil, Robbo, even Mac. And if they see the season sort of going to shit, they see no obvious way to remedy it, they see no immediate signs of hope in the future, you can understand that their perspective might shift, even in the back of their mind subconsciously, to, well, let's focus on that, let's make sure we stay right for that. That's a whole separate issue. But in terms of getting a tune out of the lads we've got now, I don't know how you can account for McAllister's form. He says he feels as good physically as he has for ages. That's a direct, it's from his own mouth. Alexander Isak not having a pre-season, I'm sure you don't want to hear that anymore. I know I don't. He's had more than enough time to get himself right, where he's doing more than he's doing now. Let's put it that way. The underperformance level there is amazing. Ibu Kanate, okay, the contract situation could have his eye off the ball, but at some point you have to settle down into some sort of regularity of form. Even Virgil, if we're being honest, his standards have slipped tremendously. So it does speak, Jan, doesn't it, to a group of lads who don't have that central point of focus like the Klopp or whatever else that they all have faith in, that they're willing to run through walls for? Or is that just, I don't know, crappy amateur psychobabble? What's your take on why so many have fallen off at once?
So if you want to put the Klopp thing up as an argument, it's easy in it because you always had the impression that the lads were prepared to run through a brick wall for him. You never ever came away not thinking that. But now you do think that. I mean, the World Cup thing you can use 2 ways, can't it? It can be a motivation for players to make sure they go into that in great shape. But of course, for Virgil, it might be his last one. It might be Robbo's last one, not because of his age, but because Scotland might, they don't qualify regularly. So it is difficult, isn't it? So Virgil van Dijk, obviously you'll point towards his age and he's coming towards the back end of his career, and it is feasible that there would be a drop-off in form. But when you look at the way he played last year and the way he's been playing over the last few seasons, bouncing back after that injury, I had this feeling that even at 37, the boy they had down at Chelsea, the Brazilian centre-half, Thiago Silva, at 38 years of age, I thought that was going to be Virgil, even at 38, being in control of that back line. And Virgil has an advantage that he's half a metre taller than Thiago Silva was as well, isn't? So I just thought that's going to be Virgil, isn't it? So I don't know whether it's things around him that's affecting him, but then things around you should impact if you are, if you're the man, you kind of go, yeah, but it's okay because this is what we do, and I look after things, isn't it? So Konate, big thing with Konate is, obviously decision, but also decision making as a footballer is not particularly good. McAllister, we spoke about at the start of the season, and we heard something about something is not right. He doesn't feel 100% fit. He missed some of pre-season because of niggles and whatever, and he can't get rid of them. But how he's playing generally, I generally can't explain that. And again, a little bit with Mo. I can't explain why Mo is not Mo any longer. Some people will point to the fact that our build-up now is so much slower that by the time he gets it, the opposition is always set and ready to face him. And maybe that is a point, isn't it? But I think everybody's been... Ryan Gravenberch is not Ryan Gravenberch from last season. He's doing okay, but he's not Gravenberch from last season, is he? He's not where you go, oh, did you see the way he got us out of that little bit of a corner because of a drop of his shoulder and he's away, isn't he? And these things don't happen anymore, isn't it? And Cody Gakpo has forgotten. He's basically forgotten how to play. He kind of just plays his own little game. He plays his own little world. And I'm thinking, wow, Cody, what about all the people around you? You never see anything that comes from the outside. You don't play clever passes inside. Your first thing is to take two touches and come inside and see if you can do that bend to the far corner, isn't it? So there's too many, Trevor. There's too many. And it's worry, which is why I say, and I've been saying this now for 6 weeks to you as well, Trevor, and you agree with me. This isn't about to change. This isn't about we now go and beat Brighton. We go and beat Brighton 4-0 on Saturday. I still won't be convinced when we play the following week against Tottenham. And I'm at that level in where you go game from game. I want you to go into period from period where you go, you know what, we're all right at the moment. So when we 4 weeks ago said the run of games we've got, I think it was 7 winnable Premier League games. And I said, well, if we win all them 7, we're back in it. We're finding every single game a struggle, isn't it? Because of individuals who's dropped off too far.
Let me ask you something. It's been something that I've been saying on shows recently, but I don't think we've spoken on this show for over a fortnight. So I think it was in that interim period. You just highlighted there, and we've spoken about, let's say since we started the show, we've spoken about our attack is not functioning correctly. Our defense is not functioning correctly. Our midfield is disjointed and doesn't look strong. It's so easy to play through. We don't seem to have a coherent sort of game plan like we did at the start of last season, like we always did under Klopp, a clear identity of how we play football. And you've just ran through there some of the senior players that I mentioned, plus some other ones that you've tacked on there. It's like 6, 7, 8 first teamers who are miles off where they should be. And so the thing I keep asking on shows, and it's not intended to dig at Arne Slot, it's a simple question, and I know you'll relate to this. If you have so many small problems, do you really have only one problem? Or is that too simplistic? As a man who's been both a player and a manager, am I boiling that down into too simplistic a way there by saying if there's so many problems, maybe there's just one? What's your take on that?
No, I tend to agree, Trevor. It's a bit the same as saying what I said before, and you look at this and you go, I'm not sure that the man in charge can put that right, which kind of reverses back to where is our biggest problem. Is it with the players? Always difficult in with the players. Is it with... Absolutely. I mean, Arne Slot won the Premier League. Arne Slot is a top coach, but that doesn't mean that you can't run into trouble. you know, and sometimes as a manager, I mean, I've been sacked twice as a manager. The first time I slightly disagreed with, but the second time I'm also looking at the situation and going, I wish somebody else could come in and do this job, because I can't, with how I want to do things, I can't put that right. And luckily, it wasn't too long before somebody did come in, and then, as much as you think when you've been dismissed by a job as a football manager, and people for days will go, "I'm really sorry." I went, "Don't be sorry. It is what it is," and it's actually a little bit of a relief, you know, once you're out of it. Is, and then, and it doesn't make you a bad coach or a bad manager. Just sometimes you're looking at things, you can't see things, or you don't have that ability to put it right, you know, and that can be many things. So many things might just equate, like you said, to one problem.
So, without again wanting to say anything or put you in a situation where you feel like there's anything divisive that you need to say, if you were we were playing a computer game scenario of this situation at the moment, and Alonso became available, Fabregas was gettable, Glasner was gettable in this upcoming window of opportunity over the next month or so, or you stay with the man in situ and you hope that he can get it right, do you go with that hope, Jan, or do you feel like you would, if you could, just for the sake of the experiment, would you pull the trigger on one of the other options?
I would stick with what we got, even though I've said that I don't feel that he's the right man, but I would still stick with what we got for the time being. And then you go through all the options. Xabi Alonso was of no interest to us last time, and I don't think that's changed. Sepp Fabregas, for me, is still a little bit too early in his career as a football manager. The one I come back to, Trevor, I know last week we spoke, and I mentioned the Ole Werner coach at Leipzig, who I don't know, but he's doing a really, really good job. But if I had to, I would probably go to Aston Villa, knock on their door, and go, "I need Unai Emery. Can I have Unai Emery to be the manager of Liverpool?" I think that's where I would go. Oliver Glasner, yeah, great coach, but we would never ever play that way with three centre halves and whatever. I just think Unai Emery, in my opinion, is a top manager, and that's where I would go. But as I said before, as much as it goes against what I've said in that, I'm no longer sure that he's the right man to maybe get us back to. And when you talk about getting back, there's only one place, Trevor, isn't it? Getting back means the top. You know, we're not talking about getting back as the top, isn't it? So I'd be tempted for Unai Emery. I think he's a really, really good coach.
I think that's going to be very interesting for people who all have their own opinions. I'll tell you, it's. I'm glad you said that about to specify what getting back means, because I think so drop in their attempts to be, I don't know, seen as being loyal or being traditional Liverpool fans or a good fan or whatever. None of the people who you have admired as a fan were anything other than fucking ruthless. Am I right, Jan? The men that you worked with, like you've told us, you were the first man to tell me the story about Ronnie Moran and the cardboard box of medals. But that's only indicative of the mindset, which was fucking earn it, you know, and then earn the next one, and then the next one. And we thought, you and I, that we'd be in the situation, didn't we, this season, where we'd be looking at, you know, can we get back-to-back titles here? And we're so many miles off it that sentiment doesn't come into it.
No, but it shouldn't. It never should. And also going back to so many years, and even when we were doing the podcast, and you talk to people, and players are leaving, and players and the fans are going, "Yeah, but that's the game, Jan. If you want to stay at the top, that's the game. It's ruthless." And now we're in a situation where, you know, too many people are, you know, maybe we can, and I know people say, "Well, you just said the same with Arne Slot, isn't it?" But I don't know. I just think we can run the season with him and take that Champions League spot, get into the Champions League, and then have a look at things again. In. But my big thing, Trev, is I need to see that team play better. I can't sit through and think, you know, and then you go, "Oh, it was a great win." I mean, we wouldn't have won without that highly controversial penalty, isn't it? It's just so bizarre.
It is. It is. I'd like to have a look at this and just see if I can share it with you. Hopefully, let me just double check that I'm doing this right way. Yes, that should be the Champions League table for people to be able to watch or have a quick look at. And I just like to walk down through this with you if we could, because this is interesting. So after 6 games played, we have Arsenal on full points at 18, where we were last season. Bayern are on 15, so 5 wins and 1 defeat. And then Paris are on 4 wins, a loss, and a draw on 13 points. And they're joined by City, who we saw win last night against Real, and Atalanta, who've done very well to be in a similar situation. Then it drops down to ourselves in 9th position, and ahead of us, Atletico, Real, and Inter, all on 12. Now, just so people can have a quick look at what's left for Liverpool, then I'll just change this over for a sec, so we can see the fixtures that remain. Sorry, wrong option. It's because it's very interesting, and this is the question that I'm sort of getting towards here: is what do you reckon to our chances? So there we go. Here we have our Champions League fixtures. We play Marseille in Marseille on the 21st of January, and we play Karabag on the 28th of January. And I think an awful lot of people will be thinking, well, they're too easy to win games, even though Liverpool have been toxically bad. We do sort of default and think, even you and I do it on the show, like, oh, we're better than them. Granted, we're not at the moment, but we're better than them. It's tempting to think that we can get our 6 points there. I guess to go back, the first question I'd ask you is, do you feel we're going to need those 6 points? Because it's kind of looking that way to me. I'm not sure the win and a draw will do it in terms of top 8. And then if you do, we can't just say they're a gimme. We've got to go to Marseille, which is a notoriously wild place to go and get a result that they can put on quite an atmosphere. And Karabag are no pushovers. They've got quite a few points amassed in this competition. And if they're coming to us with a chance to be in the bigger draw, everything is on line for them. It's a cup final at Anfield. It isn't as easy as it looks, is it?
No, it isn't. I have to admit that when the draw was made, I was pretty confident. But let's not forget, we've lost 2 games. We lost to Galatasaray and PSV Eindhoven. And that's not something that Liverpool normally do. They're the kind of teams that we normally put away. So many people would say that Inter away is a more difficult game than Marseille away. But I disagree. See, I don't think Inter uses the atmosphere to create that intensity on the pitch. They want us to play from the back. They never went long. They never put us under pressure. Like Marseille is like playing Leeds away from home, but in a better version of Leeds. So they'll use the atmosphere. They'll create an intensity on the pitch. They'll be physical, and they'll put us under pressure. Long balls, throw in corners, they'll put us under pressure. All the things that we don't like. Whereas Inter didn't do that. Inter wanted to play from the back. They wanted to play through us, isn't it? So they never used the intensity in the stadium. Hence the reason that I don't like the Marseille game. So all of a sudden then, we could find ourselves in problems. If it comes down to a shootout, last Champions League game at home against Karabakh, we will beat them. But all of a sudden you're thinking, how did we get ourselves into such a mess? All we needed to do, Trevor, was beat PSV Eindhoven at home. And you'd have had the big cigar already and go, and we got one winnable home game and we'll be okay, isn't it? All of a sudden now we've pushed ourselves up against it a little bit. And yes, top 24 qualify, but you finish between 9th and 24th. It gives you another 2 games in, and then another 2 games. You know, in the past, you'd have gone, most European games, you'd have gone, not a problem, not a problem, not a problem. But a lot of them teams in that top 24 over 2 games might just give us problems because of the state that we're in at the moment.
Yeah, and we went through it to see who might possibly drop out of the top 8, given the difficulty of the fixtures they have remaining. And let's just say it's not looking like too many people will drop out, and who might leapfrog us into that spot. And again, there is a possibility for 1 or 2. And a lot of people are saying, I think someone said there that 16 points probably won't be enough for us. So in other words, a win and a draw because of our crappy goal difference. So you are looking at 2 wins, Jan. But if the season hangs on it, I think you're right. If the season hangs on it, we might have enough about us to go and get those. And really, truly, if we're being honest, the season does hang on it, because the other league table is the Premier League table. And, looking at that, it's such grim reading. Like, we're so far off it. You keep scrolling down till you get to 10th. Liverpool are in 10th, a point ahead of Tottenham Hotspur, a point equal on points with Sunderland, equal on points with Brighton, a point behind Everton, and 2 points behind Manchester United. How, Jan, has it come to this? I mean, all joking aside, any given 11 that Liverpool put out should be doing so much better. And it comes back to that feeling of something is so wrong in the bigger scheme of things, because you do get the feeling there was all those wild calls for, like, let's get. Do you remember when United were in the horrors, and it was like, give it Giggsy till the end of the season, and it was all the calls for Gerrard. Let's get Gerrard in, and people are get emotional and they want the talisman and all that kind of stuff. But honest to God, it's hard to see how any of those lads would do worse currently in terms of being a rallying force and getting a tune out of some of the lads who are currently awful. It's so hard to understand what's gone wrong. But to go back to the earlier question, is there an argument to be made that, yeah, it's boring to watch, it's uninspiring? But a lot of these journalists are leaning into the fact that there is something that's been discovered by Slot, which has at least got us back on track. Now, the results would seem to give credence to that. But like I said to you, the concession of goals, the lack of creativity, the uninspiring football, none of those things find me wanting to agree with it. Which way do you lean if you had to lean?
I think we had a breakaway against Leeds in the first half. Hubert Giteki got the ball, and because nobody joined in, he was like forced to dribble back, and then eventually I think he played it to Bradley or whatever, the fullback. And I'm thinking, right in that moment, I thought last year or 2 years ago, Darwin Núñez and Luis Diaz and whatever would have done everything they possibly could to run past Ekiteke, to take the attention away and give him a bit more time. And I'm thinking, where is that? We've got 3 midfield players ambering up, only to support the play. They're not trying to stretch the opposition or cause the opposition any real heartache. And so they were just strolling up to try and support. And then, of course, we had somebody on the other day saying, the way that we played on Tuesday against Inter is how Arne Slot, this is the way forward. This is the new Liverpool in Europe. And I thought, bloody hell. Because, but if that's the new way in Europe, Trevor, you take away that fear that everybody had of playing Liverpool. The first thing I noticed when I came to England playing European games was the fear they had for that physicality. That thing you do in England, that you only do in England. And if we take that out and play like we did on Tuesday, we'll just be like the rest of them. And then it comes down to your ability as a footballer. Whereas before we had that 20% extra that we could always throw in. We're not playing well, but we're going to give you Anfield hell, and we're just going to put them through it. And they can't cope. The fans, everything. We even see Manchester City couldn't cope with Anfield when we do all that. And I thought, if we're going to play without all that, then all of a sudden, this sort of aura of Liverpool, because Liverpool have that in Europe. I travel around Europe, I speak to people and they go, no, not Liverpool, yeah, no, not Liverpool. And that's a combination, But the one thing that's constant in that is not the players or the manager. It's the whole thing, isn't it? There's a magic about Liverpool, and they bring something that we can't cope with. Or we'd love to go, but we know we can't cope, So please don't tell me that Tuesdays how we're going to be playing European football from now on.
Christ, I hope not. I mean, apart from the boredom levels, you'd have to say, and you put your finger in this earlier on, they were trying to do the thing that the other teams that we've beaten tried to do, which was to outplay us. And the one time when the crowd got up was on the back of a wretched refereeing decision, which disallowed our goal. And my God, they were suddenly, they had their tails up, they were full of life, they responded to the crowd, and they played a bit more directly. They got at us a bit, and that was the nervy spell for Liverpool, which was actually after we had scored, until the end of the half, where I think Ali has to make a good stop right in the last minute of the first half. That was their best spell. And if you can't read the signs there, then you're not really watching the game, because then they went back to their playing it from the back stuff, and we were comfortable enough with that, and we will be continue to be comfortable with that. I think especially with the energy of Curtis in there in midfield as well. Let's look ahead to the Brighton game, because that is what's on the horizon now. We can speculate all we want about the Champions League, but those games are going to come up thick and fast, so we'll be talking about them anyway. We do have Brighton up next, and again, just by way of giving people an idea of how Brighton have gotten on, the results of late have been interesting. So we'll just pop them up there on the screen for people. They had a home draw against West Ham in the last time out in the Premier League, a defeat at home to Aston Villa, 4-3 reversal, bit of a ding-dong that one. They got beat, they beat Forest at Forest in the game before that. Brentford at home in the previous match, 0-0 with Palace, and then a 3-0 against Leeds at home, and lost in the FA Cup previous to that, 2-0 to Arsenal. We know what Brighton are going to be able to offer in terms of their personnel. They are very, very impressive. And again, just to give people an idea of what one of the most recent lineups looked like, because, again, like I say, I think that's often very revealing. So if we look at the game against West Ham, the 1-1, they had Verbruggen in goal, Van Hecke, who Liverpool have been linked with, and Lewis Dunk, and Kadioglu and Vifor on either flank in defence. Baliba, highly rated, again linked to Liverpool and every other good team, and Gomez in the middle. Yankuba Minta and De Kuiper on the flanks, with Rutter behind Welbeck. And off the bench, they can call on Gruda, who's highly rated, and again, the kind of footballer who's, you wouldn't mind seeing at our club. Hinchelwood, Costulas, Boscagli came on as well. They have Jason Steele and Joel Veltman, Diego Coppola, Joe Knight and Nehemiah Oriola were making up the bench on that particular occasion. This will be a challenge, Jan. There's no two ways about it. That we can't minimize what Brighton are going to put up to us, because they will have the ability to play, but they also won't be embarrassed to go direct, and they'll use speed and physicality. It could be a nightmare match for us in terms of the way that we are set up currently.
Well, there's no doubt that they won't fear coming to Anfield. I don't think they've ever particularly feared playing anywhere, Brighton, because of the way that the whole setup is. But they'll come and they'll play their stuff. That's for sure. And again, they'll be clever enough to mix it up. They'll go long. They'll use Welbeck. They'll use Welbeck's pace in behind. They put your press under pressure at set pieces. Brighton is one of those teams that I like, because, like I just explained, is that they try and play the same home and away. They'll never go anywhere and park the bus. They'll always come and go, I'm going to give it a go. On certain days, they're not good enough. But some 18 months ago, when they brought in the new manager, Hertler, and they changed the squad, I think they're starting to see the benefit of that. Changing the squad over, and there's younger players coming into the squad. So, yeah, absolutely one of those that it's a bit like the PSV Eindhoven game in a way. You go, they come to play, so it's going to be an open game, so we won't have the issue of trying to face a low block. But on the other hand, you get them on the wrong day. They play through you, they have the pace, they have the players to hurt you. Some teams will come, and even if they play well, you kind of come away and go, yeah, but they never had the quality to hurt you. Brighton do. Even a 35-year-old Welbeck, he's playing some of the best football he's ever played. And he'll be a big, big key for them because of what he brings in these big away games. So it's got every opportunity of being a really difficult game.
They're so well run, aren't they? I mean, they just keep finding the best young players. They've got this great model where they hang on to them till they're worth a fortune and flog them on. Baliba is likely to be the next big source of money to them. And they just keep rinse and repeat. They're just a really well-run outfit, and they can seem to cycle through impressive young managers as well, Jan. I mean, credit where it's due. They are a proper outfit. And you wouldn't be surprised to see them maybe getting European football or getting into that sort of category on a regular basis as the years roll by, unless they stay very much with the kind of, I don't want to diminish Ajax, but the Ajax thing of, we've got loads of great players, we sell them all, here's the next batch. that can stop you from making progress, I suppose, as a team. In terms of that model, is it something that you find yourself admiring, or do you think it's kind of limited in terms of how big the club can ever grow if you are always going to offload your finest players as soon as they're worth enough?
So when you talk about the big six, Trevor, you're not talking about the big six from a sporting background. It's because of their financial muscle. When you talk about the six big clubs, what they're capable of doing, they're capable of having a bad transfer window, putting it right in the next transfer window because of the money they have available. These clubs, and we're talking about the likes of Brighton and Bournemouth and Brentford, they operate differently, and they have to be able to do what they do because that's their model, and that's the only way that they can compete at the level that they compete is. And so it's a fantastic setup, but it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work at Liverpool. It wouldn't work at Manchester United, whatever. Because we don't ever bring a player with the intention of having to sell him. Sometimes you have to, but we never ever buy a player with the intention of eventually selling him on. Whereas these clubs buy every single player with the intention of eventually moving him on. So yeah, it's totally different, but it's very much to be admired.
Yeah, I think that's actually brilliantly simplified. It breaks it right down perfectly. And if we're being honest, the likes of Liverpool, Arsenal, City, they need the Brightons of this world to be the place where the big players come through, so we can go along and poach them. That just seems to be the ecosystem. I want to get to predictions, and we will in the last minute or so. But just to leave people with something about, like, your gut feeling on how you think things are going to go with the bigger picture questions. Like, we've got this game, and then Mo's away to AFCON, and it'll go quiet because he's, absence. If you were to put money on the far side of the transfer window, in terms of the likelihood of the following events, what do you think it is? First, Mo Salah not being a Liverpool player in the second half of the season. Second, Arne Slot not being Liverpool manager in the second half of the season. And third, Liverpool signing someone of real note in the transfer window. Where do you think those three things are in terms of likelihood in your mind at the moment?
Yeah, so let's start with the Mo Salah thing. So what we're hearing now is that the Saudi clubs are ready, but waiting, and they want to kind of gauge whether Liverpool are prepared to do business or not. I don't know where they're going to get that signal from unless Liverpool or Mo Salah come out and make a public statement. So I think we might just end up in a situation where they'll have to bid a little bit blind, to test the water. They'll have to go, well, here, we're prepared to pay 8. What are you trying? I think the big thing of this is now, I don't think Mo Salah is done with Liverpool. And I think Liverpool kind of know that. And how that will play out. So yeah, Mo will be at Liverpool the second half of the season. So will Arne Slot. And yes, we will spend in January.
I think most people would take that, except the viciously anti or slot out types. So I would lean into that. It could be we need. Let's just see how things work out, and let's just get your take as ever on the last issue of the day, which is how you see our next match going. So, as ever, what do you reckon that game ends?
So, when people talk about Arne Slot, and we got all the social media outbursts and whatever, and people keep going, yeah, but his future ultimately will be decided at Anfield. It'll be decided at Anfield through results and performances, and also the reaction of the crowd. I think the crowd is going to be 100% behind him on Saturday. And I have a feeling that there will be some after effect of the results against Inter. I think that might have given us a little bit of a lift. So actually, comfortably, Trevor, I'm going to go Liverpool 3, Brighton 1.
You see how confident he is, folks. Look how confident he is. I love it. We will take it. We'll go with the positivity. It's a great note to end on. It just leaves me to say, as ever, my friend, thanks very much for all the questions. I know I came at you sideways with all these different things. Everybody wants to know your opinion on all the things. So thanks for indulging us once more.
Wonderful, Trevor. We just keep going.
Just me and Jan keeping our heads down, talking about things as they happen, trying not to upset you. We will be back. Thanks to Jan. We will be back as soon as possible, probably ahead of the next league game this Saturday after next. So we'll talk to you next week at some stage, hopefully Thursday, but we'll work out that, me and Jan, in the meantime. So until then, from Jan, from myself, good luck.